Good morning. Hi. Anyway, good morning. I had a planned topic today, but it turns out that Twitter have announced their safety policies, YouTube have announced their safety policies. We're officially in election season where everyone's losing their fucking minds. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I think that what I need to do is produce some additional content, schedule additional streams for each platform and what they're doing, because I think that this is actually really interesting, but I don't want to spend 3 hours talking about this stuff. What I'm going to do is soldier on with my Facebook one, and we'll go from there. So now, if you've been watching many of my videos, you'll know that I am pretty well interested in how, or at least talking a little bit about how Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, tech, they're all dealing with a lot of these sort of, I can't think of a word without understating the gravity of the situation, but I also don't want to exaggerate. But some of the emerging problems that we've got, right, in terms of security, privacy, copyright, harm, damage, and of course with all of the fucking tribal bullshit that's going on, like this morning. Oh God, all the fucking, like, can you just stop talking about shit you don't know anything about? They're not banning memes on Twitter. They're making it so that you can't fucking create deep fakes in order to defame people. Okay, and in order to destroy people or to fucking meddle with elections. It's not fucking hard. This is about disinformation. This is known. Okay, if you're sitting there bitching and moaning that you can't fucking put Nancy Pelosi's face and defame her and do whatever the fuck you want, then you have a problem. You're probably fucking a sociopath, to be honest with you. Okay, because this is a big fucking problem and this actually does threaten our democracy. Okay, and whatever version of democracy you live in, hopefully you do live in one, these are fucking important issues. All right, and I'm just fucking sick of people who could barely put together a Wix site thinking that they understand anything about how these fucking tech products, how complex and difficult these issues are, okay? Not just from a moderation point of view, not just from a policy point of view, not just from a UX point of view, not just from a tech point of view, not just from a project management, product management point of view, not just from being CEO of somebody with 35 fucking thousand people, right? Employees, hundreds of thousands of employees, right? Billions of dollars. And you can turn around and you can fucking influence an election with one decision. Okay, these are hard. These are emerging problems, and unfortunately, we need agile solutions in order to we need to adapt. Okay, if you think you've got all the answers here, then good luck. It means you don't, because nobody has all of the answers here. Everyone's trying to figure this shit out. All right, so sitting around claiming that they're banning memes on Twitter, you know what? Like, fuck. No, that's not what's happening, okay? This conspiracy nonsense, all right? Yes, we can critique some of the fucking bias and some of the woke bias and some of this, emerging cult stuff, but at the same time, you're being a fuckwit as well. Okay, by sitting there fucking claiming that everything that Twitter does is wrong, everything that Facebook does is wrong, everything that YouTube does is wrong. You know what? Sometimes you just don't. You know what? You might just fuck off to the dark web. Okay, fuck off. Just these are problems, right? These are real problems, and your hot take is not helping. And I don't, whoever's I don't give a fuck anymore, okay? I'm sure that by whatever, hopefully I'm anonymous enough that I'm not fucking, dragged over the coals. But at the same time, Jesus fucking Christ, nobody is taking away your right to meme. Nobody is taking away your right to a sense of humor. Nobody is taking away your rights, okay? I'm the first person to be fucking, because obviously I've got a video next week about brand yourself where, something like innocuous, like swearing, sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera. That doesn't chop my head off. But something, like swearing, right? That's a conversation that needs to be had, right? Should swearing be part of the equation you know, as part of your fucking reputation and social score, right? The fact that my reputation on brand yourself is in the toilet is a problem, okay? The fact that, you know, certain voices do get the ban hammer more than others, that's a problem of execution. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that these problems aren't fucking hard. And it doesn't mean that these problems aren't almost insurmountable. Okay, and it doesn't mean that we need to we don't need to try, and we need to allow Facebook, we need to allow Twitter to try, we need to allow them to try, and we need to give them permission to fail from time to time, because these are hard problems. Okay, now I want to open with this because first of all, I just want to share the fucking headline because it's the best headline ever, but it is indicative of something where process, right? Common sense, process fails common sense, okay? But the process exists to protect people, and you understand why that is, right? Sorry, I haven't had coffee today, so I'm having a coffee on stream. Fuck it. But anyway, this is the most marvelous fucking headline. And, you know, there's part of me that, again, I go, well, this poor lady, it's unfortunate, you know. But at the same time, fucking, it's understandable. You can't just have somebody turn around and shut down a page without any fucking proof or ID, right? That's where these things, this is how tech works. This is how lean UX works, lean product management. This is how agile works, which is that you constantly change and you constantly evolve and you constantly iterate in reaction. If this was can I just say that it's a good thing that Microsoft aren't fucking running anything like Facebook, because with all those fucking asshole waterfall project management IT guys, could you imagine what would happen? Right? 12 elections would pass before they'd even get one fucking fix done. But at least Facebook are agile, at least they're doing what they can. You know, these companies are fucking huge. They are siloed. And this is one thing I think a lot of people, I suppose people who aren't technical, they just see computers as this magic thing that you can just hit a button and fix whatever you want. It doesn't work that way, right? Facebook are now, they've been mainstream, right, for fucking 13 years. What is it? 2007, roughly, whatever. I can't do maths. Whatever that is, 13 years. And they are now old enough. I've worked with tech companies before, right? A lot of the original big tech companies, Amazon, eBay, Facebook, they have the same legacy problems that banks have or that any other big corporation has, which is that they're dealing with original fucking tech, original hardware, that they're not immune from legacy. Okay, so that's one thing you need to remember, is that they're not immune. They are now a massive corporation that you have to get stuff done. There are so many stakeholders. There are, you may as well, they're basically like BHP at this point. Okay, it's the same thing. Have you ever tried to get fucking anything done in a major corporation like that, right? Without massive amounts of fucking pain? Have some empathy. Just because it's computers or just because it's tech and just because they wear fucking t-shirts and jeans to work, it doesn't mean that it's not the same fucking bullshit that other companies are going through with having to try and digitally transform, okay? Rule number one, okay? They're big tech, they've got legacy, they're big, they're siloed, they're bureaucratic, they've got to be compliant with the law, they're under fire at the moment, and everyone's looking at Zuckerberg like, save us, and he's like, I don't fucking know what to do, right? If we do what was done before, then we can't innovate, and if we innovate, then we fucking risk all of these unintended consequences, and that's where we find ourselves. So this is just a funny example that will lead into a bigger conversation about, fuck, can we just ease off fucking Jack and Zuckerberg and Google and all those people? They figure, you try, again, I ranted about this the other day, right? Why don't you try making something? I've built apps before. It's fucking hard. It's expensive, it's hard, and it's fucking stressful, and you don't know anything. Just because you can fucking, you see the front end interface of fucking, just because you know how to use Twitter doesn't mean you know fucking how this works. Just because you can build a fucking website in Wix doesn't mean you understand how websites work. Like, this is hard. You try building a content management system like WordPress from scratch with code, okay, and then come back to me and talk to me about how you do that at scale so that it works, so that it's bug-free, so that it's secure. Until you can do that, why don't you shut the fuck up? I can do that, okay? So anyway, I'm sick of people's fucking amateur hot takes, right? They set up a WordPress site and have a fucking opinion on tech and they don't even know how basic product management works, right? And how they've never worked within big tech. They don't understand, okay? These are hard problems, all right? And the fucking conspiracy theories, you can go fuck yourselves as well. Anyway, clearly I'm in a sweary mood today. Water? Okay. Share the screen. I don't even know if anyone's watching. But this is a corker because it really does show how fucking, yes, look, BuzzFeed, and it is a funny headline. I feel for her, right? This is a failure of process. It is a failure of common sense. But, right? Okay, so for those that are listening, how's this for a cracker headline? Facebook won't remove this woman's butthole as a business page. Okay, so basically, if you know how Facebook was designed, initially before they had Facebook pages, they would build, you've got a page and then you've got a community page. So if people are frequently mentioning, or people, frequently checking in or that sort of thing, then there is a community page around an interest. So that, let's say, George Carlin, I don't know, I couldn't think of it. I think he's got a community page, but a celebrity who wasn't on Facebook because they died before this stuff happened. But there's a, again, don't fucking correct me. I know there's probably an official fucking page. I'm just using as an example, right? Person, everyone likes, everyone fucking mentions and talks about, and there's a thing, but there's no ownership of the page. No one's actually running or publishing stuff on the page. It just creates a community page. That's something that was a legacy of the original Facebook, and it's a good feature, right? Unfortunately, again, gap in the system, right? Somebody thinks it's funny, probably from high school, right? Who thinks it's funny to check into. I think it's funny, right? Remember Foursquare? I used to use Foursquare, and I used to like create all sorts of fucking funny like things to check into. It became a joke, okay? Now, so basically, this unofficial page was created because people on Facebook have shown interest in this place or business. It's not affiliated with or endorsed by anyone associated with Samantha Ray Anna Jesperson's butthole. So you know what's happened here. Someone's just fucking been a smart ass and thought they'd check in. Teenagers being teenagers, they fucking did it, forgot about it, moved on. And she discovers, 6 years later? Yeah, probably 7 years later, right? Discovers 7 years later that she's got a community page dedicated to her butthole, right? I feel for her, right? Because I can see, and I can see that she's probably got a good sense of humor about it. But at the same time, it's a clear failure process. Now, where Facebook falls down, right, is here. Right? So BuzzFeed made it. The headline is the thing. It's like, Facebook won't remove this woman's butthole as a business page, right? Yes, it's funny, but at the same time, imagine if somebody could just frivolously remove anything without any real checks in place, right? So to use let's use the fucking imaginary George Carlin example, right? What if somebody just said, well, I'm called George Carlin, I want that taken down? Surely you've got to go through a process in order for that to happen, because these things are open to abuse, okay? This is where the conflict between one area that's open for abuse versus another area that's open for abuse, which area and they're in conflict with each other, which area of abuse do you focus on and prioritize, right? Again, it's all about priorities and fucking, which one's going to cause the most harm, which one's going to cause the least harm. So, making sure that this woman has to go through some process of IDing herself, right? And this is where, you know, again, another issue here is that it's often developing countries support that are doing support. They're low-paid staff. They're not fucking, you know, they're not paid to have common sense. They're paid to follow a script and they're paid to follow a process, right? And that's another thing, which is that support teams are under-resourced. You can't contact any human being in order to fucking actually get some, you know, common sense, right? Anybody who's tried to call fucking a Telstra call center where, and again, it's not related to race, it's just the language gap, the cultural gap that exists with these call and the nature of these call centers, that you just can't talk to a person who can, they can't have common sense. In fact, you know, a lot of these places, very similar to a call center actually, these support places, they're low-level staff, they're low-paid staff, they're often English as a second language, but also, you know, with things like Telstra, right? One thing I found out, like with Telstra, is that when they, with some of their contractors, right, if they do anything that is like a common sense move, right, or override Telstra's process in the name of common sense, right? Okay. Slight digression. We used to, the phone pit was actually literally outside our front gate, right? And the guy, for our next door neighbour, were getting something connected, and they unplugged our phone line, right? We had to get a work order and wait 4 days to get our phone plugged in, right? This poor contractor came back and said, "I can't touch that fucking cable." This is corporate's going to corporate, right? I can't touch that. I can't. We could see it dangling. We were just pointing at it. He could see it. He knew what needed to be done, but he couldn't physically plug it back, plug it back in without a work order. And if he did do it without a work order, he would lose his contract. Okay, so the problem is that they're all subcontractors. They are fucking. They're not paid to think. In fact, they're penalised for it. And this is the very similar thing with these support teams. I can guarantee it. They're run by third-party fucking contract people who are letter of the law. And anyway, so that's, I know I kind of wandered off, but I just want to say this is the nature of these fucking things. The problem is with, you know, corporations going to corporate. Money's fucking capitalism, fucking that stuff. It's not necessarily Facebook at the top. And this is where that disconnect, when I do my Twitter video, which I'm going to do, I'll talk about the disconnect between the high ups and the fucking operations, because this is actually like middle managers are the problem here, not upper management. And there's, like in any corporation, there's a big gap between upper management and those who get and their intentions and the operational execution and the day-to-day running of this stuff. In the day-to-day running of Facebook moderation, it's low-paid staff who aren't technically employees of Facebook, who are dealing with the worst of worst content. They are often English as a second language in the developing world, because, you know, no one's going to fucking pay me my hourly rate to moderate Facebook, are they? You know, like, let's not be fucking, yeah. And also they're highly disincentivized from actually exercising any common sense. So, but basically just like they just want to replace moderators with robots as soon as possible. Okay. Now, and if you do try to fucking override it, then you get like penalized and also probably fired, because they're not actually employees of Facebook. They're actually subcontracted to these fucking ridiculous, like fucking Circos and those fucking gross like companies. So this is not necessarily blood on the hands of Facebook. So that's how it works. Okay. Again, this is an amalgamation of practices. I'm not talking about how any one particular company works. I'm just very quick summary for those that don't understand. Okay. Now, Facebook won't remove it. Yes, because what they did was, okay, and it's a great article, right? The page was created in 2012 when she was only 15, right? So someone just checked into her butthole, which I think is funny, right? Part of me is like, oh, this is a failure of process, a really good example of how, you know, all of these things can collide and fail. But at the same time, I'm like, butthole. Anyway, so she posted this to Reddit, right, for legal advice, which is great. But today, right, where are we? Yep. So So what's really vexed Jesperson is that she's been unable to get it taken down. Since she discovered the page in 2015, she's reported it several times. But Facebook has said it isn't in violation of its community standards, right? And it's also worth noting, Facebook removed the page after this article was published. So that's good, right? Facebook did actually remove the article. They realized that, removed it. The problem is that you shouldn't have to go to the media to get a resolution, okay? And this is what we're seeing with bans and all this sort of stuff, right? There needs to be a process. Now, one thing I do know and have mentioned before is that Facebook are looking into avenues of appeal, like a Supreme Court of Facebook, right? So one thing I will give Facebook is that they do tend to learn and iterate, and they're doing well, and that's what I'm going to get to. Right? So basically, it doesn't violate standards, but I imagine, right? But she couldn't get it. Nevertheless, her years-long battle has been frustrating. I feel like I should have been able to get it removed based off the fact that it was my real name and I was underage, and since it had my old address. And yes, so that's a failure of process. But at the same time, right, they're not paid to have common sense. Okay? I just thought this was an interesting sort of segue. This update cracks me up. Update. Facebook has removed the page for Jesperson's butthole. The problem is that now, if you know how SEO works, if people Google that, Google her, it's going to show the fucking media articles. So it hasn't gone away now. Because now Google's indexed the article. That's how it works. It's funny. Anyway, I find it's funny. But what I want to do is get into this, right? Again, I'm going to try and keep it like as short as I can. But Facebook's new approach is going to piss off a lot of people. Now, the history behind this is around deepfakes. Now, Facebook. Now, I'll talk about Twitter separately and YouTube separately because they're doing different things. But we are heading into the 2020 election season. We've learned from 2016 that they're, the way that this stuff is going on. Okay, the degree to which is up for debate, but if you're denying this, then you don't know how tech works, okay? That's the thing, is that you just don't know how tech... Oh, fucking hell. I just got an alert on my phone. smh.com.au is live, right, on Periscope with the State of the Union address. I don't know, is it me or Trump that you're going to watch? Oh, fucking hell. I think you should watch me, because I'm slightly less orange. Only slightly, because of pancreatitis. But anyway. But let's talk about this, right? Misinformation. Now, the thing that annoys me, okay, is that the answer lies somewhere in the middle. As always. Again, disconnect between C-suite and high-ups versus operations, right? Now, Nancy Pelosi, the reason, now there's context to this. Let me just play this video, right? Now I'm hoping that this works because I'm on a Mac and it's not straightforward to play system audio in the browser, but I'm hoping that this doesn't kill my fucking feed. But let's see how we go. So
the Facebook business model is strictly to make money. They don't care about the impact on children. They don't care about truth. They don't care about where this is all coming from. And they have said, even if they know it's not true, they will print it. I think that they have been very abusive of the great opportunity that technology has given them. My thought about them is all they want are their tax cuts and no antitrust action against them. And they schmooze this administration in that regard because so far that's what they have received. But I think that what they have said very blatantly, very clearly, that they intend to be accomplices for misleading the American people with money from God knows where. They didn't even check on the money from Russia in the last election. They never even thought they should. So they have been very irresponsible. And again, as you say, these are people that we've known and worked with over time. Actually, Facebook's down the peninsula, but they do have an office in my district, and I think their behavior is shameful.
Fucking hell. There we go. All right. She
If you've ever
pissed.
logged onto a browser,
Now,
click on this link. It's a technology that's been around
there's history to
basically as long
this.
as the internet.
Fucking
I'm
hell.
not talking about the
Ugh, stupid fucking autoplay. Anyway. So, hang on, there we go. Now, the thing about Pelosi is that there's history with this, right? Which is that very famous, like earlier in the year, last year, that there was that somebody posted video of her that was deliberately slowed down to make it appear like she was slurring her words and that she was either drunk or unwell, right? Now, I have a problem with what she's saying because a lot of what she's saying is not necessarily true, okay? This is where this gets complicated. Do you have the right to defame somebody or misrepresent them, right? No, okay? It is all fair in love and war and politics. Well, the law would tell you no. Misinformation during an election, that's heavily regulated and there's legal consequences for that, right? Should you be allowed to meme a public figure? Of course. Should you be allowed to make fun of them? Of course, right? And that's where I'm getting fucking annoyed with a bunch of these, like, on the right, I hate whatever, but these fucking MAGA people where they're like, oh, they're banning memes. No, they're not banning memes. They're banning you from fucking meddling. If your meme could be perceived, right, as harmful, then what the fuck is wrong with you? Okay? Anyway, so, okay. I'm just going to read this one because the way that, so Twitter's response, as I've talked about before, is to ban political ads, right? They're not going to necessarily police politicians' statements. They're going to, they're doing the best they can, but in terms of purchasing targeted communication. So that's what, a lot of where this falls down, right? There is no real freedom of speech when you talk about people's ability to purchase ads and target them at people who are more susceptible to believing falsehoods and more susceptible to so this is where the shitstorm is, right? Which is that Facebook are saying no, we can't determine what's true and what isn't. What are we going to do, right? Twitter have decided to ban political ads. YouTube, I think, have banned political ads. Now they're not, and YouTube are trying to clean up their platform as well. This is a big problem. Okay, there's a lot of fucking dumb fucks out there who will see something untrue on Facebook and vote accordingly. This is what they're talking about. Okay, now this is where the battle lines are drawn, which is that Twitter are acting and Facebook are not. They're going, well, we can't police what's true because once we do that, you get someone like Nancy Pelosi. Like, I would actually argue that what Nancy Pelosi said about Facebook is actually untrue. Okay, because what he's trying to do, if you actually, she's pissed, right? Because she fell victim to it. But at the same time, you can't take a personal fucking vendetta against Facebook, against a corporation, and threaten antitrust fucking legislation because you're fucking upset. All right? That's where we need a level head because there are fucking principles behind this, right? So Zuckerberg actually came out and said, right? I'm going to read this article for you very quickly. I'll try not to go too long. But Mark Zuckerberg says Facebook will stand up for principles like free expression and encryption, even if it means facing a backlash. Okay? Now, he is actually standing out from the crowd in the sense that Twitter are getting the ban hammer and YouTube are fucking favoring corporate fucking bullshit. So this claim from Pelosi that it's all about money, she's correct, but that's not just Facebook, right? Twitter knows where their money is, which is in journos. YouTube knows where their money is, which is in fucking VOD, right? Sorry, video on demand. Okay? It's not sorry, James. James just commented that it's not as simple as free speech versus censorship. It's not that simple, and people keep reducing it down to that. It is not that simple. Okay? You cannot have a completely censorship-free internet. Okay, it doesn't work. Okay, you can be as absolutist as you. It's not that simple. That's actually fucking. You basically that's doing what fucking wokes do, which is, are you for or against hate? That's not the same. It's like everyone's against pro free speech. In principle, we're talking about principles here, but in execution and in reality, there are people that can't fucking, they don't have the critical thinking skills. They cannot differentiate between fact and fiction. Okay, we are seeing this even more. We do have a responsibility as a society to protect those people. Okay. It's not about dictatorship. It's not about benevolence. It's nothing like that. It is not about censorship necessarily. It is about the line between free speech and this is what I'm saying. People make this simple, and it isn't simple. Okay, it isn't that simple. And again, I think it's a little bit derailing to debate with comments, but these are cliched arguments. We know that. Who gets to decide? Precisely, and that's why it needs to be a conversation and it needs to be a policy. And these are emerging issues where we need to. I mentioned this on Twitter. I'll talk more about Twitter in a separate video with their stuff, because we need to move towards more like a hub and spoke, more like a guild, more like a micro communities where varying leaders in certain tribes that are trusted and trained are entrusted and empowered to make moderation decisions for their particular crew, right? It needs to be decentralized, right? That's decentralization, right? So each community sets its own rules. The thing is that when it's centralized, like Facebook and Twitter, you're building tribes on a centralized platform. That doesn't work. It needs to be one or the other. And that's where, but it's not, but again, these are simplistic questions, and it's not that simple. Okay? The answer is that the fucking law can determine it, and that the law is constantly moving, and that people are moving, and that people turning around and saying that they're a free speech absolutist, or people saying that if, that Twitter putting, policing fake news, right? Or sorry, not Twitter, Facebook policing fake news is censorship. No, it's not, right? It's fucking, there's got to be some sanity in the middle of this, okay? So be absolutist about it. Don't like me, I don't care. All right? But anyway, so I have heard all of these discussions before, okay? And at the policy level, the answer is that nobody is 100% evil, no one is 100% right, no one is 100% wrong, and that these are areas of grey. That is a constant negotiation, a constant discussion. And yes, that's where free speech and freedom of expression is important, because you need to be able to have that exchange, right? You need to be free to be able to discuss the exchange. But the reality is that there's people who are fucking assholes, that are corrupt, that are fucking, filling my stepdad's head with fucking all sorts of horse shit, right? You should see you should look at a fucking person's feed, right? I was absolutely horrified when you see someone who is a target of this stuff and on all of these things and into conspiracy theories, the absolute shit that they're being shoveled. It's not okay, right? It messes with them. It messes with people's heads. It messes, and this is manipulative. It's platform manipulation, which is very distinct from fucking free speech. Okay? Free speech assumes that everyone is in their right mind and that everyone is operating in good faith. And that is objectively not true. Okay? Now, we can discuss what good faith means and doesn't mean, and that's fine, but yeah. The answer is that you can't centralize these things. And operationally speaking, back to how tech companies work, the mistake has been that they're trying to centralize these things when centralize governance, I suppose, of tribes. And so it doesn't work. Okay, but again, these are new emerging problems. All right, and anyone who okay. So I'm reading the article. So people fall on either side of this, right? I'm not getting into it, okay? Because the answer is you're all fucking nuts and you're all fucking don't know what you're talking about. So the Facebook co-founder and CEO said his company's aim for a long time was to not do anything that would be deemed as too offensive. Okay, so he again, when you understand what has happened, which is that Zuckerberg initially caved to this idea that he basically believed what he was being told, okay, which was that hate speech was like a problem, which it is. Okay, again, you don't have the right to fucking, like, no. You still got to operate in society, okay? But anyway, it's so frustrating when people are like, no, I should be able to say fucking whatever insulting thing at anyone I want, whenever I want. No, you shouldn't. There should be consequences for that. Okay? It's called defamation, copyright law, fucking IP. It's, you know, it's bullying, it's harassment, okay? It's incitement. Those are key principles, okay? So if you think that you can incite dogpiling and you think that you're on the right side of fucking like ethics, no, okay? Doesn't matter what side you're on, and that's why I'm critical of the works right now, because they're engaging in the kind of behaviours that we've traditionally fought against. All right, this is where we really need some theory and political theory and history, right, to really understand what's going on here. Okay, which is that we've overcorrected, and this is what happens, which is that sometimes when you get things wrong, you have a tendency to overcorrect. And that's what Facebook have been doing. The pendulum swings. We overcorrect, okay? And hopefully the pendulum starts like this, but eventually, there's a policy pendulum, right? Eventually things sort of even up, and like when you've got both sides screaming fucking the same things, you know that you're polarized. You're Orwell. No, you're Orwell. You're Orwell. No, you're Orwell. You're gaslighting. No, you're gaslighting. No, you're gaslighting. So no, you're all fucking nuts. Okay, can we just create some policy and procedures and actually do something, please, without sorry. Okay, nobody is 100% evil and no one is it's not the belief, it's the behavior and all that sort of shit that I keep going on about. Let's get to the article. So increasingly, right, and this is what he's talking about, which is the Twitter route, right, which is and he's talking about Elizabeth Warren's sort of screeching and Nancy Pelosi screeching about fake news, all the while screaming, screaming to shut down transphobes. Like, this is the blind spot, right? Every political side has a blind spot for its own behaviour, and they tend to make excuses for those people because they agree with them, right? And I work very hard to try to give tough love to people that I agree with, and tough love and compassion to those that I don't, right? I try. No one's perfect, right? I probably fucking pissed you off, James. I didn't mean to. But it just incenses me when people just start to derail the thread with the same questions over and over that we've been having for 10 years now. Okay, the answer's the same, which is that it's not that fucking simple. If it were that simple, we'd have an answer by now, okay? Now, this is evolving. Society evolves. This pendulum, at the moment, we're stuck in fucking the extremes of that pendulum, right? Because that's how society operates, okay? But eventually we'll swing back to the middle, and it's just how it is, okay? So whenever there's a disruption, there's an overcorrection, okay? So now, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get a bit animated there, James. I did it with respect, but I get incensed by it because I just, yeah. Anyway, so the context of this is that you'll understand, which is that everyone's fucking screaming at Facebook to fix fake news for the election, right? AOC, fucking, whatever, whilst blind to their own bias, right? So everyone, basically Zuckerberg has seen this for what it is, which is that everyone wants the others, these tribes are sitting there having a long-range war, and Facebook and Twitter are in the middle of it, and they're trying to fucking police this stuff, okay? We're just trying to get shit done. And Zuckerberg actually was like, oh, fuck. In reaction to 2016, this is actually a sign that they are listening to Cambridge Analytica. They learned, right? The fact that they didn't see it coming is a whole other thing, because I saw it coming 10 years ago. But anyway, but they're trying, okay? They're learning, right? Unfortunately, I think they have this utopian, and again, if you work in tech and you know this, you tend to have a utopian view of what technology can do, and you don't necessarily think about the unintended consequences or bugs until after it launches. It's just the psychology of it's just we're idealists, we're inventors, we're creatives, right? We have a utopian view. I've talked about this myself, right? About being in marketing. I had a new user experience. I had a utopian view of the good that we can do with the web, and the good that we can do by building, like, gently nudging these tribes to fucking coexist and stuff. And we had inadvertently created this big fucking war. It's the same thing, right? So there's multiple forces at play, and that's all. So anyway, whatever. Let's move on to the article, shall we? Because I'm going too long. But basically, so increasingly so this is Zuckerberg. Increasingly, we're getting called to censor a lot of different kinds of content that makes me really uncomfortable. Okay, so he's being there, and that is probably things like being asked to censor conservative content. Like the ban hammer comes down on them threefold more. Right? Gender critical feminists, right? This is the only time I became aware of just how fucking crooked this notion of how unfair this censorship was when I got fucking went into TERF land, right? And what's actually going on, okay? But it's happening across lots of different tribes. But that's at the nexus. The TERF wars are at the nexus of all of this stuff. So increasingly we're getting called to censor a lot of different kinds of content that makes me really uncomfortable. Zuckerberg said, while acknowledging Facebook's responsibility to purge its platforms of content related to terrorism, child exploitation, and incitement to violence. And that's the thing. He's actually taking the reasonable view. He's actually taking the liberal view. Sorry, me and my stutter. The liberal view, right? We're going to take down the content that's really harmful, but the line needs to be held at some point. And this is what he's talking about. He is saying that the Democrats in particular, that like AOCs and fucking Elizabeth Warren and her little war and Pelosi, right? The Pelosi thing is a bit different. I would actually argue that that was not okay and that should be taken down but then again, you've got the public figure argument. So again, there's lots of different things. Right, and again, I'm not going to go into encryption, but again, he's fighting the right fight, which is about user privacy and, also the fact, user privacy it's something that Facebook have a long history with and a long legacy of fucking up, and now they're being told to undermine that. And he's like, no, we're fucking fixing that. Okay, encryption is important, especially with things like WhatsApp and all of those sorts of things. So anyway, I'm skimming, but Zuckerberg has been I forgot to highlight this. Zuckerberg has been increasingly vocal about Facebook's determination to stick to its positions even when they prove unpopular. And that's what has to happen, okay? Because otherwise you end up with a clusterfuck like you are with Twitter, right? And it's just not, Bridget Fetisi, she fucking got banned from Facebook because she appeared on a Glenn Beck. That's right. Glenn Beck was on her podcast, right? And that got taken down from Facebook. Now, if you think that's reasonable, then then you've got, this is the cult stuff that I'm talking about and the blind spots, right? And this is the policy capture and institutional capture and entryism that this woke cult have really, they're actually very dangerous, right? And very censorious. That said, there are people on the left who will fight for the right to fucking have Glenn Beck speak, okay? And will fight for the right to have fucking right-wing commentators speak. And good on you, Zuckerberg. Not that what I say matters. I'm sure you're sitting there hanging on what Taya says in a 45-minute fucking stream. But anyway, but this is great, right? If you're not out there remember this, if you're not out there standing for things that people care about, then it's not possible for people to feel that strongly about what you're doing. Okay, Zuckerberg is making a stand. Now, that said, I have it on good authority. I think on a previous podcast, I know a number of people who work in these areas, and Facebook are pretty good at lobbying in their own interests, right? Again, no one's 100% evil and no one's 100% good. And good ideas come from everywhere, everyone, no matter their status, right? And let's, I think that more conversation is good, but we do need to address this issue, okay? I don't think it's necessary. Being free speech absolutist in the sense that sharing, okay, what we can do is we can agree in the principle of freedom of expression and free speech, okay, and goodwill, okay, but operationally it doesn't work. We need to address the danger. But what we do need to do, coming back to James's question, right, or comment about who gets to decide, right, that's where the freedom of expression needs to occur, okay? That's where the free exchange of information. But the policy, right, the law, that's what the law's for, right? That's what the law's for. The law's there to interpret the fucking law. The legal system's there to interpret the law and apply the law and all of those sorts of things. So what you do, this is what's happening, is that it's just evolving, okay? Which is that through these policies, so we can be, okay, freedom of speech is important. Yes, that's an important value, okay? But we do need to censor some things because that's just how it is, okay? I don't want my 11-year-old exposed to fucking stuff. I don't want my kids to be destroyed by fucking porn. I don't want my daughter to be harassed for merely putting her art up online, right? I don't want to feel like if I make a video that I could be criticizing 4chan, that they could just turn around and fucking destroy my life at any moment. And the same thing with the fucking wokes. We need to decide. I think we all agree that something needs to happen, right? But where the freedom of expression and the free conversation and the open dialogue needs to happen is what the line is. Okay? And that's what courts do. It's almost like there's a fucking system designed to do this, which is the justice system. Okay? You go before a judge, they interpret the law. You make your case. Okay? This is what Facebook are looking to do. I think it's very good. Twitter, unfortunately, they're trying. I'll talk about this in a later video because I'm going to go, because I'm going to, around 45 minutes. But what Twitter are doing is they're creating great policy and they're doing great consultative work, right? But their execution, they're not backing it up with any kind of process that allows you to appeal or allows you to do anything. At least Facebook are trying. Okay, now hopefully it won't just be buttholes that we're dealing with, but hopefully there'll be an avenue of appeal. Honestly, if I have to back anyone, I think Facebook are on the right track. They get it, okay? Twitter, I wish they would listen to... I just wish that they wouldn't... They're fucking... anyway, I can talk about that one. That one's its own special. That's special? Who the fuck do I think I am? Watch my special. No, okay. My next stream, I might try and squeeze another one in because I want to comment on the Twitter thing separately. But, can we just calm the fuck down? All right? These are unprecedented problems with a pretty decent solution, which is we agree on key principles. We have an open dialogue. We don't fucking censor our critics. We engage our critics, okay? And Zuckerberg's right in the middle of all of this. Meanwhile, you've got fucking Warren and Pelosi and the Democrats who are fucking still pissed off about 2016. And Pelosi, I mean, if I was in her shoes, I'd fucking hate them too. Right? I can imagine that that's pretty fucking upsetting. But but her job as a politician is to take her emotions out of this and her own personal interests out of this and to start creating reasonable policy and having good discussions. Not having a tantrum and threatening an antitrust suit or antitrust fucking legislation against Facebook and breaking them up and all this sort of nonsense. These things are not... Vendettas are not going to fix the problem, okay? But, yeah, anyway. I want to work at Facebook or Twitter. I want to work on this. Why do I have to be stuck in this fucking town? No one will pay me to do this. It pisses me off. Anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you for your precious life seconds. I love you. If you want to support me, go to my website, usual places. I was going to tell a funny story on Friday, but I think I need to do an extra Twitter thing. It's the same thing. They're all doing the best they can, but operationally, they just don't have their shit together. All right? Twitter support is dog shit. All right? Their policy team and Twitter safety team, they're doing well. They're doing good work. But when they're handing it over to a new team, and the Twitter support is absolute fucking dumpster fire dog shit. They need to better resource. They need to decentralize their support. And that's how they might actually de-silo, de-woke, and don't go fucking full conservative either. It's not just fucking left versus right. In an election year, everyone's going to be like screaming conspiracy theory because that's what people do. But just, calm your tits. I'm thinking of calling it my new podcast. I'm just going to call it that. Because everyone should just calm their fucking tits. Anyway, I love you. I hope this was coherent. Thank you for watching and all that stuff. I will see you some other time. I've got lots of work. I'm sort of torn between doing one on the Twitter safety policy and getting my paid work done. I really need to do paid work. But I'll see how I go. Okay. I love you. Bye.